timber, that I can tell you. Grey box, really hard, especially when it's dried out for nearly 3 years. Okay, this timber does dry quicker, but yeah, g'day YouTubers, Spannerman again, here with another video. Today we're just going to do a brief review on this moisture meter by Scandia. It's a local product up at our Bunnings hardware store in Australia. It's a great little gauge. I actually prefer it than the still. The still cuts out, I think, at about around 50% moisture. This cuts out around about 67% moisture, because I guess the thing that's calibrated for the lower end of the scale, and we're not using it to measure 100%. We really want to know if our timber is any more than 20%. Now, what I like about this particular meter, so if we turn it on, it's got a mode switch, and on the bottom, if you can see, it's on A, and if I press the mode switch, you can change it from A, B, C and D. We'll see whether you can see that. There's D, A, B, C and D. So just by pressing this mode switch here, you can see it climbing up the stairs. So we want A, and A is for ironbark, sugar gum, yellow and grey box, and B is for red gum, jarrah, black butt, and C is for stringy butt, messmate, Tassie oak, and D is for your very soft type timber, pine bark, manuka and poplar. They're like, especially the pine and poplar and beech, they're all from overseas. They're not native to our country, so we're more into the eucalypts, and that's what we generally burn. This is a really great meter. It will measure very quick and fast. It takes a 9-volt battery. The still takes 4 little watch type batteries, about 8 millimeters in diameter. So 9-volt battery is a bit cheaper than those 4 little round ones. It turns itself off after about a minute or so, but you can turn it off just by holding the off and on button there, the orange button. So turn it back on. Like all these meters, they have a nice cover because they've got very, very sharp points on them. They look like a bit like a taser. Anyway, I just prepared 4 bits of timber. I've cut 2 grey box up, so we'll check the outside of the grey box just to see what it roughly is. We're getting a reading of about 10% there. You can see that on that one. And if we measure the back of it, I just cut it, there it is, look, 16.1. So it's a lot wetter because I just cut it. That's one of the things that you've got to realise, that when you cut timber and you put it outside to store, the outside dries and you end up with a crack like that, and it slowly dries to the centre. As you can see, the centre's barely just got a crack here. So we'll check this one now. 9.7. Should be able to see that. Doesn't have a hold button. Oh yeah, it does have a hold button. 8.4. So expect this side to be a bit wetter. 16.1. I'll see whether you can see that. There it is there, 16.1. Okay, so that was a grey box. Let's try the ironbark. Ironbark, round 8.4, much drier. 15.7. So that particular one has only been drying for about 6 months, so yeah, I'm not going to use that to burn. This one here, 11.3. And about 14. So as you can see, there is a big difference between timber that's measured on the outside and measured on the inside. So what my recommendation is in using one of these gauges are no good if you're using them to check the outside of the timber, because it's not really going to tell you much, especially in summer. Like now it's getting near our winter, so therefore the moisture content out there the humidity is much more humidity in the air compared to summer. Summer's very dry here, and summer dries the timber out because we get 40 plus, but generally low 30s to 40s in our summer. So this timber that I've got in front of me, it's all got black plastic on it, mainly because the iron bark and some of the bark on some of the things can rot if you leave it outside in the wet weather. So all the grey box I cover with plastic, and behind me is my woodshed, and woodshed's quite big, so what I do, I leave it outside here for about 2 years, and then it goes in the woodshed. So by the time I use it in the woodshed, it's nearly 3 years old. So this is a great little meter. I prefer it over the still. I'm not saying it's any more accurate, but the other thing is, even if it's slightly inaccurate, it really doesn't matter if it's even if it was a couple of percent out, because you're using it to measure the outside, and then a couple of seconds later you're using it to measure the inside where you just cut. So as you saw, the difference between the outside and the inside where it was cut, quite a substantial amount, more than 5%. So if I was to cut this in summertime and it was green, it would be up to 50% moisture. And we can actually do that. We can actually go to a tree, and we'll show you what happens when you use a moisture. So imagine this tree, for whatever reason, it was diseased and we're going to cut it down. If we put the gauge and push it in, there it is, 59%. I'll come around the back here, maybe it's not that clear. But that's what you expect to see on a tree that's alive, but it may be diseased. So there it is there, 63% moisture. So if we were to cut that down and stack it up for about 6 months, and you were to put this moisture meter in, you'd say, oh, that's dry. But no, the inside could be 30% wet. So my experience has been that you need 2 to 3 years to get it fairly dry. So if you don't get it fairly dry, don't expect it to burn. When I burn timber, the chimney only has a little bit of smoke, so it's not too bad. So yeah, if you're after one of these, they're a great little unit. As I said, they take about nearly 10 minutes to shut off, which is actually quite good. The still one shuts off pretty quick. I guess it saves the battery, but that one, you just push it like that. So if you're not using it, just press a button and it's off. As I said, be careful of the prongs. They're very, very sharp. You could do yourself an injury. They all come, most of these comes with a nice little cover so that you can't injure yourself. And that's all I use it for. Once a year, before I pull my timber out of the woodshed and I'm going to take it inside, I'll grab a few logs and I'll chop through them to see what they're like, if they're good enough. I actually chopped, I'll just show it to you actually. I haven't shown that one. This is one that I cut. You can see the fresh cut mark there. I've just done it about five, so it's been cut through. And we'll just check it. Expect this to be a lot drier. Wow, look at that. That's 10.7 9.5. That is a dry piece of timber. The reason there's no bark on it, this was sitting at the back of my woodshed for about 2 years, and on the grey box it gets this very furry bark. I'll show you a piece, and it tends to rot. So last year, that's 10.3 on the dry end. There it is there. And on the cut end, just got cut a little bit. See, it's 11.4, so it's got more moisture in it. But the problem is with the grey box, and I can show you a piece here. Grey box can rot very easily. There's a piece there. And this is the bark that I was talking about, that if it gets really wet and stays wet, it'll just rot. You can see how wet that is. If I put the moisture meter in it, 24%. Even there, look, 15%. Yeah, so moisture meter does work good. Even I wet my finger, look at that, 59%. Eh? Anyway, if you're thinking about getting one of these and you live in Australia, and you've got the choice of going to the still shop, or you're going to Bunnings, and this company Scandia, they also make wood heaters. I prefer this gauge over the still gauge because it's programmable. It's got 4 different settings on it. I find it very accurate, very reliable. When you touch the timber, you get instantaneous reading. Works good, highly recommended. Do yourself a favour. If you're cutting timber and you're only storing it for 2 years, you probably really want one of these. But if you're storing timber like me for 3 years undercover, then you really don't need one. But it's still a good idea, just from a bit of experience, as to what timber dries better. Typically the ironbark, one, they call it ironbark, and they can get fairly big. This is just a little small one. But that's why you need, when you see the spikes on a chainsaw, and this is why you need fairly big spikes when you're cutting this stuff down, especially the really big ones, because of the deep furrowed bark. One of the reasons that this ironbark burns fantastic is this bark on the outside doesn't rot like the grey box, and it actually burns fantastic. This is the hottest timber that I have ever burnt. It beats red gum, it beats grey box. It is the best burning timber. And the funny part about it, I was talking to a local government employee, the DSE, and he was saying in the region that I get it out of, even though you can get ironbark from one forest and from another forest, but one species can burn slightly better than the others, even though they're the same species. I guess it's the genetics of the tree. So, but he was saying that's what he noticed. And I says, well, I've noticed this is the best burning timber that I've ever had. So this is my premium timber that I go after. And as you can see, it's all ironbark there. It's all ironbark here. There's a bit of a mixture of grey box. This is the grey box here. And that's all the ironbark. Look, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up. It's just another technical tip brought to you by Spannerman if you're considering buying a moisture gauge. Thanks for now. Give us a thumbs up. Bye.